Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Today, I promised it the other day, I'm coming back with the full review of the brand new for 2023 Tom DeLonge Signature Strat reissue. Let's check it out. Could say that this guitar is a bit like the man himself, likes to take a bit of a hiatus every now and again. But yeah, this guitar's been out of production for, well, over 20 years now I think. Tom DeLonge was known in the early days for playing Les Pauls. I think he dabbled with Strats a little bit, and then in the very late 90s he switched over to Fender and got a couple of these signatures. I think he had some custom shop signature runs, and then Fender put out a Made in Mexico and a Squire version of that custom shop guitar. Original Made in Mexico run was pretty short-lived. It ran from 2001 to 2003, and then Tom switched over to Gibson at that point. So Tom switched over to Gibson hollow bodies. He was with them for a long time throughout that period in the mid to late 2000s, through the kind of final Blink album before the hiatus, then on with Angels and Airwaves and what have you. And now he's come back to Blink, and along with that he's switched back to Fender. Now live he's playing some custom shop Starcasters, which are again are hollow body guitars. They look awesome, and you know it's pretty likely that there's going to be some signature versions of them down the line. But I think to appease the masses and to cash in a little bit on the Blink reunion tour and the new album and what have you, he's partnered with Fender to re-release the Signature Strat. So I've long been a Blink 182 fan. I remember my buddy Steve introducing me to Enema of the State back when we were at college in probably 99 or 2000, something like that. I fell in love with the band really quickly, and I've been a fan ever since. Not so much a fan of those Skiba albums, but less said about that the better. But yeah, throughout my kind of late teens, early 20s, I was really big into pop punk. Played in a couple of pop punk style bands, and in fact I had a Strat that was quite inspired by Tom DeLonge's Signature Strat, at least for me anyway. The purchase was inspired by it. It was a USA Lone Star Strat, which was a HSS pickup configuration. For me, it was the Pearly Gates humbucker in a bridge that interested me. It just made it look like a cool kind of punk rock guitar. It also had a Pearloid scratch plate, and it was a kind of a metallic blue finish. The actual signature model really passed me by back in the early 2000s. I wasn't really super into signature models, so I guess it just didn't really come onto my radar, and I completely missed out on it the first time round. And then, as this has come around, the hype, all the leaks, and the teasing from Fender and Tom, I just, got really into the idea of getting one. And yeah, I ended up with one. So I've waffled on a little bit there, but I did put out kind of a first impressions video of this the other day. Since then, I've done a full setup on the guitar, and there's a couple more things that have come to light that I'll talk about in a while. But generally speaking, I'm really happy with this guitar. Right, before we get into the specs of the guitar then, if you are enjoying the video and you like the content on the channel, please do consider subscribing and liking the video. It really does help the channel out. Cheers. So we've got an older body, and obviously it's got a gloss poly finish. It's 25.5" scale length, like all Strats. It's got a synthetic bone nut, a single pickup Seymour Duncan Invader. We've got a single master volume with a treble bleed. A treble bleed is a really nice touch on there because that's a really high output pickup, so to be able to pull it back a little bit and retain the high end in your signal is really helpful. Hardtail, of course, so you've got a string through body. Modern C-shaped neck. It's got a 9.5" radius rosewood fretboard, and it's a really, really nice fretboard. The rosewood is really dark. It does have this kind of orangey red streak through it, which actually looks really cool. But yeah, the only thing I would say about the rosewood is it does feel quite dry compared to kind of the rosewood that I've had on my US Strat, for example. I've treated it with some lemon oil, and honestly it still feels a little bit dry, but it has really kind of brought out those colours as well, so it's really cool. Medium jumbo frets, and it comes with this Tom engraved backplate, his little logo. And of course it includes a gig bag, which you would bloody hope so at this price. One important spec I almost missed there is it does of course have a large 70s style headstock and vintage style tuners. So these tuners do feel quite, I don't know how to describe it really. They don't have that kind of rounded feel that the real kind of vintage ones do, but they're the split post tuners that you stick the string end down into, which are my favourite kind of tuners, so I'm happy with that. So what I've done for a demo then, I've got a kind of pop punky style song that I recorded a few years back. I've stripped back most of the guitars out of that recording and re-recorded them with the Tom DeLonge. So that'll be coming up next, and you may have seen some clips already at the beginning of the video. Yeah, so cool, so check out the sounds, and I'll catch you in a bit. Right, let's talk about the elephant in the room then, the price. In my previous video, there was quite a lot of people saying, yeah, it's cool, but I don't like the price. Yeah, it's cool, but that price is crazy. I would love to buy this, but it needs to be, you know, the original price of the Tom DeLonge, all that kind of stuff. And I feel you. This is 1299 in the UK, which is a lot of money for a Mexican-built Strat. What I will say though is that does appear to be becoming the norm for Mexican signature models. My Jason Isbell Telecaster, for example, that's a signature model, of course, and that retails for around £1,500. Well, recommended retail price anyway. You can pick that up for around £1,250. So, you know, this is a trend, and it's not, I don't think it's going to go away. My theory now is really that £1,000 is really the very top end of the low end of the market. And that probably hurts to hear, right? But it definitely looks that way. You know, yes, you can get cheaper guitars, and there's a lot of places that are making really good guitars for not a lot of money. But if you look across the whole market, all of the manufacturers, you'll see the price is rising across the board. I don't like it. I agree with everybody that's saying it's too much money. I feel the same way. But if you want a legitimate signature model Tom DeLonge Strat, you've got two choices. You pay second-hand money for an original, and you're talking upwards of $2,000 these days. Although, you know, that's likely to crash pretty hard with these new ones coming out. Or you get one of these. The other alternative is the Squire version that they made in the early 2000s as well. And then, of course, you can build yourself one, but it's not going to be a signature model if that's what you care about. And, you know, I get it. Most people don't care about that. And you're completely free to make that choice, right? I'm going to make a prediction as well. I don't know if you've seen the rumours for the Vintera Series 2 that have leaked. There's a lot of screenshots that have leaked out about the new models coming. Rosewood's coming back. But I predict that they're going to be around the 1K mark in the UK, so probably 999. I've got no insider information. I'm just guessing based on the prices of the signature models and based on their previous models. I reckon they're going to hit that 999 price point for the regular Vintera models. Well, with that out of the way, let's go to more bad news. A couple of minor things to look out for with these guitars if you're buying one. I covered some of this in my previous video, but let's cover it again here. So the first thing is frets. I found that some of the lower frets at least looked like they'd maybe been spot leveled and then not necessarily recrowned very well, so they're quite flat across the top. I mean, that's not great, but it is fixable, quite easily fixable by a tech. Another one was this very end fret marker had a bit of a brown stain on it, and it does make me question, are they dyeing these rosewood fretboards to make them darker? I don't know. I've seen some examples that look really light. I've seen some examples where this kind of orange streak that mine's got in it is more pronounced across the whole kind of fretboard. So maybe I'm just being paranoid, but I've actually taken a little bit of sandpaper to it just to get rid of that stain, and it's gone completely now. So the paint, I did mention a couple of little things in my previous video. This looks like it's had a tiny little touch up in a neck joint, and that kind of runs along underneath there as well, although the bit that runs along looks like it's more overspray on the underside of the neck, if that makes sense. So in the actual pocket, on the very corner here, it just kind of pokes out a little bit. I don't really want to scrape it away to find out. It might just be overspray from inside the pocket where it's not been scraped away or something, but something to bear in mind. I've got a tiny little line of what looks like a green just on the bottom part of the guitar here. Again, it's barely noticeable. It's not something that I'm going to send a guitar back over, to be honest. Other than that, you've got your kind of usual sort of occasional little kind of wobbly bits that look a little bit funny. I think that's just the nature of poly finishes. It's mostly in the curved bits on the horn where it's more difficult to finish a guitar, I guess. Other than that, I think the paint's okay. I love the graffiti yellow. It looks awesome. Again, I mentioned in that other video that I was a bit worried that the yellow was going to be a bit too pastel-y. If you look at some of the kind of stock photos on retailers and what have you, it's obviously shot in really high bright lighting, and it does look quite pastel-y. And in real life, it's definitely got kind of a pastel-y look, but it does, you know, have that kind of brighter yellow look. And it's one of those finishes that kind of changes depending on the light that you're in. So in some lights it can look really, really bright yellow. In other lights it looks that kind of more pastel yellow. But I really love it. It was my favourite of the colour options. So it does come in surf green, Daphne blue and black as well as this. For me, this was the rarest of the original run. You hardly saw any of them, and they fetched a lot more money on the second-hand market, so if you did find one, they were even more expensive to buy. So for me, it was a no-brainer. I was going to go for the graffiti yellow, and yeah, I love it. So when I was doing a setup, I did put some slightly heavier strings on. I put 10 to 52s on this, and I've tuned it to E flat. I did notice that there was very little, well, no relief in the neck at all, to be honest. And you would think, you know, increasing the string gauge, you would have seen a bit more relief in it. So I adjusted the truss rod. The comment here is that the truss rod was extremely stiff to move.
That's what she said.
I had to put the Allen key in kind of the wrong way to get the leverage you needed to shift the truss rod. And it has kind of marked up the lacquer or the plastic around the truss rod nut there a little bit. Not the end of the world, and it's something that you probably clean up with like a razor blade or something when you've got no strings on it, and that's what I'll probably do to fix that. But bear it in mind, it was really hard to move that truss rod. Once I did manage to move it, I got the perfect amount of relief in the neck. Went on and set up the height and what have you. This is a bit of an upgrade over the previous run. So they've got these block saddles. This one has a few little nicks and scrapes on the saddles, mainly towards the back end of the saddles. Again, doesn't affect its playing. It's a cosmetic thing, and it's a really, really minor cosmetic thing. I'm not bothered about it. I'm going to play this, so they're going to get knocked about. But yeah, bear it in mind. So the good things, it plays amazing. Now it's been set up how I like it, it plays really well. It's got nice low action, just the right amount of relief. The neck feels great. Here's another point for you. Again, I called this out in the previous video. Lots of complaints about the neck feel because the original version of this guitar was a gloss neck, and this is a satin neck. People on Reddit were saying that it felt chalky and weird. I don't really get it. To me, it feels like a regular satin Fender neck. It feels really great. I really like it. Yeah, it feels great. It's easy to play. No complaints there. The humbucker sounds immense. These days, I'm really a neck pickup guy, so it is kind of strange for me to be playing a single pickup guitar, but the output on this just gives you such a kind of round, fat sound considering it's a bridge pickup. And the treble bleed included on the volume pot really makes it a lot more versatile than you would think for a single humbucker guitar. Again, I mentioned the colour. I love the colour. It's great. I love that it's a hardtail. I've never had a hardtail Strat before, but I've always wanted one because I find I like trends, but I also like stability. And yeah, you get way more stability in this. I mentioned it already, but the rosewood board looks awesome. It's really dark. I'm so glad that they're doing rosewood again in the Mexican range. And like I said, rumor is that that's coming back for the Vintera series as well. So great news there. And of course, it is an artist signature, and artist signatures typically tend to appreciate in money. Now, I don't buy guitars to put them away and hope that they become worth more money down the line. But that is a thing. It does happen. And the previous iteration of this guitar clearly went up in money. It's a limited run. We don't really know for how long it's going to be limited and how many it's limited to. But eventually you won't be able to buy these new again, and that will drive up demand again. But I don't suggest that you buy this as an investment piece. I suggest you buy this because you love single pickup Strats and you want to play it, Finally, probably a little bit upsetting for those that bought an original run recently and paid a hell of a lot of money for it, or those that are trying to sell them on Reverb and eBay at the moment for £2,000+. This seriously undercuts the second-hand market for the original run. Now, could they have gone cheaper? We've done that whole argument. I'm not going back there. Probably. But, but it means you can get one of these brand new with a warranty and all that kind of stuff without the hassle of Reverb, without the hassle of dodgy sellers. You can just go and get one. Although, probably want to be quick because I think they were selling out most places. And that means you've probably got a good couple of months wait for the next batch of them to come out. But just to wrap up, I'm really happy with this guitar. I love it. I'm so glad that I pulled the trigger and went for it. I am going to have to sell a load of stuff to fund it, but that's the nature of being a gear addicted guitar player, right? But yeah, really happy with it. Probably going to use it on loads more videos. And let me know what you think about the guitar. Did you buy one? Did you buy a different color? Do you have an original? Do you have both? How do they compare? Yeah, let me know in the comments. Well, if you made it all the way to the end of the video, I've got a feeling this is going to be a long one, so well done. Thanks for watching, really do appreciate it. The previous video really did surprisingly well. My channel's pretty new, so if you're tuning in for the first time, yeah, thanks so much. And if you are enjoying what you're seeing, then do consider subscribing. If you want to check out any of my other videos, I will link a couple over here that I think might be worthwhile catching up to see what else I do on this channel. But yeah, that about wraps things up for the 2023 reissue Tom DeLonge signature model. Thanks again, and I'll catch you in the next one. Cheers. Cheers!